Much obliged, Mr. Roy Acuff, Mr. Grand Ole Opry right there, coming in there and singing the doctor's song, Please Come Back, Little Pill. And over in front of us is one of the all-time greats, as a gentleman and as an entertainer and artist. Roy, good morning to you, brother.
Just add the scholar on to that and let's go.
You've got it right up ready, huh?
How you feeling, Eddie?
Fine, Roy, and you don't know how happy we are, buddy, for you to come up here and sit and talk a little smidgen with us.
Well, I'm willing to sit around and talk till the wee hours of the morning, and we want the folks to enjoy it. If we get too boresome, we'll play records.
Won't be too boresome because we kind of run this for the week that we're on by request, Roy. And, of course, we had lots of requests to the old-timers that I want to hear Roy Acuff up there on the show. So we come and ask you if you'd be with us one night. And you said you set the night, and we'll be there. So it is Thursday night. Actually, it's Friday morning, but it seems to us like it's Thursday night. And, Roy, of course, we'll start out, well, we already know, and I imagine the majority of the people know, but there might be some youngsters who twisted in. Where are you from, Richard? Where was you born, Roy?
I was born in Maynardsville, the county seat of Union County, which is 24 miles from Knoxville and about 24 miles from Middlesburg, Kentucky.
Right in betwixt and between. I know it so well because that's where I was married. I think I told you this once before.
Yeah. I said 24 miles from Middlesburg. Actually, 24 miles from Tazewell.
And
then on into Middlesburg.
Right. Well, we was married, me and my sugar booger in Maynardsville, Tennessee, Judge Inklebarger. His name's on his certificate. We was looking the other day. Did you happen to know him?
Sure, I do.
Oh, that is the gentleman that married
He
him.
wasn't judge at that time. He was just a young boy, though.
When you know he'd done politics and got in there.
Judge Higgins was judge when I was there, and I reckon he knew enough people to stay judge all his life. He died later years. I guess that's when Inklebarger come in, possibly. By that time, he was maybe attorney general and then got on up as judge.
Well, he sure passed a sentence on me that stuck for about 16 years. And, of course, Roy, you started out in the business. I think this will be interesting to all the folks. I mean, these questions that we're asking and we'll talk about, of course, we're familiar with them, and you probably said them hundreds of times, but we like to feel like we've got lots of new people listening tonight. And how did you start out in playing the fiddle, Roy, and singing?
Well, Eddie, actually, I am in this profession without really a definite cause for it. I was trying to become a coach in athletics, football, basketball, baseball. I hope sometime to maybe be a high school coach. I don't believe I could have ever gone into a college coach. But I had a New York Yankee contract in my pocket. It was already signed, and I could have gone into some of their minor leagues. They would have postponed me out. And I was pitching ball on a Sunday on the about the 7th of July. I had played in Clinton on the 4th of July, and we were playing a doubleheader on, I believe, best I remember, and that's been a long time, and it certainly gave me a hard blow, and it knocked me enough till I do know. It was on the 7th of July, and I was knocked out by a sunstroke. But I kept trying to get up, and it knocked me down 3 times, that is, in different intervals. And finally, the 3rd time, the doctor kept telling me that should I happen again, it would possibly kill me. And after it knocked me down the 3rd time, I guess I began to think that he was right. It was going to kill me, so I lost my nerve. And I laid in bed and around the house for practically 2 years trying to recuperate. And during that time, my father was an old-time fiddler, and of course my uncle and lots of them. Mother was played guitar and piano. And Papa would go out and buy these fiddle keys and bring them, and I'd sit up in bed and lounge around in the house in the shade. I couldn't get out in the light at all. And I would practice and trying to get my fiddle. It's hard to tune a fiddle or an instrument to a record. You couldn't tell back then whether they were actually what they were tuned to.
That's right. What key they were.
What key it was going on. So I would get as close to it as I could and learn the number and then try to play. That's actually how I learned to play fiddle, was from my dad and from the records that he'd bring in home.
Do you remember in those records, Roy, would it be Fiddlin' John Carson?
Oh, yes. Fellas? Yes, Fiddlin' John Carson and Gid Tanner
and Skillet Lecture.
Clayton Mitchell. And too, I was listening, rambling about that time. My memory don't serve me too good on years. But it wasn't but long till the Grand Ole Opry, I believe, Grand Ole Opry on radio station. I can't recall just the years on it exactly, but somewhere around about that time I was listening to George Wilkerson, the Fruit Brothers, Oscar Stone, Possum Hunters, and Uncle Jimmy Thompson, and there's another actor, Herman Crook, and the Crook Brothers, the Poplin String Band, and there was Charlie Arrington and the what was they called themselves? The Gully Jumpers. That's right. All those were here at that time, and of course the champion of all of them was Arthur Smith at that time. He was kind of an individual, along with Sam and Kurt McGee and
the Dixie Liners,
the Vagabonds. That was Harold Curtin Dean, and then Jack Shook, who was still there at the station, and on the staff band had the Jack Shook and his Missouri Mountaineers, Sally and Sir and Sally, and the Belmore Brothers, and D. Ford Bailey, and Robert Lund, the Talking Blues Boy.
Oh, Rob's been here a long time, too, hasn't he?
He's been here so long he hasn't got any hair left.
Actually, that thing would go. He remembers when Dunbar Cave was just a mole-hole, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Robert would.
He can remember when I imagine when those stalactites or stalagmites were just little sticks.
Oh, boy, this is going to be really a morning of it, neighbors. I'll tell you that. We're off to a flying start. And, of course, we have in our studio tonight Johnny Johnson and Johnny Wright over there, and also Stoney Cooper visiting here with us. And we're going to get back to Roy in just a minute here. We're going to play a record. In the meantime, we've got some old as well. I bet you Roy hasn't heard in 15 or 20 years. We're going to put on him. We tried to really sneak one. We found a fellow who's got some of your records that we don't have here at the station.
I wish I'd have known that you had this on for old timer. That you didn't tell me.
No,
I would have brought you some up here.
Well, I found a fellow who's got some. His friend of yours got some of your old recordings. I don't know whether you know about it or not. He told me, but I went out there to get him, and he wasn't home or anything, so I didn't really get him.
Has he got them in alcohol?
I don't know where he's got them, but they're locked up somewhere, you know.
Is some of me better out of the termites than Johnny? They got mine out the house.
Oh, me. Let me see, 18 minutes before the hour of 1 o'clock. In the meantime, we'll play one right now by Buddy Emmons on the steel guitar, the Flint Hill. Depend on hearing from them boys over in St. Louis over there. Now, you don't
we do. I appreciate that, but I do know too, Eddie, and I've always been wanting to realize that there are other people that have their favorites, and we don't want to take a microphone and just play Roy Acuff. I want you to play other numbers that other people will appreciate, and want you people out there to enjoy Eddie Hill's shows at all time, and also T. Thomas. But they'll never just get right on one subject and play it. They'll certainly always try to bring in others to entertain you in some way. So don't think you're going to just hear Roy Acuff all night. You're going to get to hear some Belcher Frizzell. You're going to get to hear Hank Thompson, and you're going to get to hear Johnny Wright and Johnny and Jack, rather, and Kitty Wells, and all of them. They'll be bringing some old ones to you, too.
Yes, sir. Sure will, Roy. And that's the young man, as he said, he's a real big Roy Acuff fan. The time, neighbor, is 11 minutes before the hour of 1 o'clock, and we've got one here, Roy. This is on the Vocalion label, full range recording, it says right here, singing by Roy Acuff with string band accompaniment, and I believe this is old Huckleberry upright, isn't it?
That's who it is. You know, he made me buy that number.
Did he?
Yes, sir.
Huckleberry?
Yes, sir. He received some of the royalties off of it, and gotten pretty hard luck or something. He come down here, and I just bought the number right out and paid him for it and kept it.
I see the name still.
He wrote it.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I didn't write it, but
After
I put it on record, Eddie, you'd be surprised. It's the number of letters that I got from older folks that really got offended at the number.
Is that right?
Yeah, truthfully. But I didn't stop singing it because of it, because you can't do things just because one or two persons want to do that. You got to do what the public demands if you're in the eyes of the public. So you can't take one or two letters and just let them control it. There's really nothing wrong with it, but some of them got offended about when you send 10 cents to Washington.
Yeah, well, I guess too.
Yeah, some people do, but if they would only think they would be thinking wrong because it's just in fun. It's written in fun.
It's just a song. I mean, they're entertaining people. That's the
It's
idea.
a song for this one especially is written just kind for on the fun idea when the old age pension check comes through your door. Your old grandma won't be lonesome anymore. See, somebody just got a little idea and carried on to. I think it's silly to get mad at anybody for something that they.
Well, the reason we thought that Huckleberry used to sing it up at WNOX all the time, and I wonder where that rascal has got to now. He didn't know which way, whether he's coming or going anyhow, did he? So ain't no telling where he went to.
Well, you're exactly.
So I was just wondering where in the dick he'd ever got to.
I don't know, Eddie. I haven't seen him in a long, long time. I guess that's the reason he wrote that number. He's getting ready to pull a hole in that.
That's right. Let's listen to the old age pension check of Roy Acuff, the Smoky Mountain Boys. Roy, that's back in your juvenile days, wasn't it?
Yes, that was back when I had long, flowing white curls.
You know who was somebody else? Oh, I know who it was. You wasn't listening last night when Porter Wagner was up here, were you?
Heard a little of it, Eddie, and I went on to bed. I was very tired, and our boys got to get up and go to school in the morning.
I wish you could have listened. We had tried to ask everybody, you know, who was their inspiration and kind of. And he got talking about you, and he said, well, I'm going to tell you. He said, it was Mr. Roy Acuff. He said, I want to tell you what. When I was out in the field plowing, he said, Roy used to wear his hair long, and he said, I let mine grow out, and he said, I'd plow along and I'd talk, and I was Roy Acuff at the Grand Ole Opry, and I'd sing, and wasn't a soul out there, and he said, I'd talk to myself, and said, hey, the people thought I was crazy, and he said, I'd get up in front of the microphone and try to talk like Roy, and said, I just picture myself being on the stage at the Grand Ole Opry, and he said, Roy Acuff is, to me, the inspiration for every bit of it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about Porter. I didn't hear that, but I wasn't too well acquainted with personally, but I had heard and knew something of his work and his ability. And, of course, when he did kind of get in the spotlight, we watched him a little closer. And then when he was on the Ozark Jubilee, and when I heard that he was coming here, I talked to some others, such as Johnny and Jack, and people that knew him a little better than I do. And the boy comes to WSM with one of the highest IQs in country music and the best recommended of any young gentleman we've had in a long time, other than the friend that's sitting right over here now, Stony Cooper. And he and Will Marie they don't come any better,
Right.
but I'll place him with him.
That's right. Well, I think I'll go along with you on that, boy, and he fits in just like a shoe that's supposed to be worn on the other foot.
That's fine.
So it does. Roy, a while ago we were talking about who was playing on this old age pension check, and somebody wanted to know if that was Oswald playing the steel guitar.
Yes, that was recorded since I came to WSM, and that was him. I could tell by those do-do-do-do-doos. I hope Oz is listening.
He'll like that, won't he? Roy, who was the first steel guitar player that worked for you?
Cousin Jody.
Cousin Jody. Clell
Yeah.
Sumner. I didn't
That
know
was
there
before
anyone
he
else.
lost his teeth, and his name was Clell Sonny.
That's what I call him, Clell. Half the time people say, who are you talking about?
That's right. He and Red Jones and Jesse Easterday and myself were the original ones with the boy that played harmonica. His name was Dynamite.
Dynamite?
Dynamite Hatcher.
Yeah,
Sam
Dynamite
Hatcher is his
Hatcher.
name. Sam's dead now. Died with... we're the ones that's on the first record. And, well, nobody got to say anything but sing and play the instrument. And finally, about the second session, they thought enough of me, they let me talk once in a while, you know, say a word, you hear a word every once in a while.
Yeah.
You had to be a pretty good hillbilly back then to get to even say a word on them
Holy
country
crap,
records. Yes, sir. You don't see Bob Wells, they let him squeal once in a while, and that was
Wouldn't
it.
even let him sing. I mean, just holler.
Just holler, right? And then they'd watch off because he didn't holler too much.
Just roll it down. Roy, the first band, I think you saw the Crazy Tennesseans, didn't you?
That's right. It happened, Eddie, when, let me go back just a little farther than that, Eddie,
sure.
since we're making a kind of a story out of it.
All right.
That, I was telling them a while ago how that, I started learning to play fiddle and how everything happened and get my sickness and everything. When I did recuperate enough, I went on a medicine show. Dr. Howard, who lived down the street from me, knew of my sickness, and he came up and asked me if I wouldn't make the summer season with him on the medicine show, in which I had never had any experience on stage other than my training in high school when I used to play most of the high school plays I was in. I just loved to be on stage. So I agreed with him that I would go, but I didn't feel capable. But I found out that I was. I was aggressive, and I could learn songs and sing. We didn't have no microphones, and I could really sing loud. And when, you know, the Leaf, they came down, and us poor folks, we were all there too. And you play for a medicine show, you play for everybody. There ain't nobody in town that don't go, because that's where we play at the crossroads. That's about all it is. So I got a lot of teaching there from the old man. He was a wonderful person. Although he had a patent medicine, he did a lot of people good. And we sold corn remedies and soap and sold out Doc on the canvas.
Oh, now, sweet Doc, I can still play that.
I used to do that. And truthfully, the doctor's brother died while our show was in progress up in Mountain City, Tennessee. And for about 3 nights I pitched the medicine for him. And I was very green at that time. I was a young boy and very green, but I made a stamp because I'd been listening to him very, very closely. I thought maybe sometime I might want to do that, so I was preparing myself for anything that might come along. But I enjoyed my season with him and got a world of experience in the show business. And then when I came back to Knoxville, was when I attempted to try radio.
With a band?
With a band, and we were we'd been working there on WNOX for quite a while. No, at that time, Eddie, I believe I was on WROL. Started on WROL. And Alan Stout, who is now one of the staff announcers at WLW in Cincinnati, and you can hear him most any morning right about this time. I've heard him a lot. He and some of the others were handling the show, and we were in the studio tuning up.
A while ago, we said we were going to get out and find out that it hadn't always been easy like this. Tell us about when you, a little bit when you first came here to the Opry and everything. What was the reaction and all? How did you feel when you walked on the stage at the Ryman Auditorium?
I was very nervous. I never will forget one of my very best friends, Mr. J.L. Frank, who is now passed away. We were out at the Fatherland Street Tabernacle. That was where the opera was coming from at that time. And I was standing in the wing of the stage, and David Stone was introducing me. And Frank, J.L., walked up back of me and kind of laid his hand on my shoulder, and he said to me, he says, "Roy, was Mickey Mouse a cat or a dog?" I says, "Oh, Frank, I don't know." And he's laughed about it ever since. He told me, of course, what he was. That actually happened the very first night that I started to walk on the stage up there. And I was just that nervous. But it hasn't been peaches and cream, as you said. We had our ups and downs, and as far as that's concerned, we still have them. But some have it a little better than others. It's rougher on some, I might say, in physically and financially. But I was here a year, and then I started to leave. I just wasn't making enough to survive on it all. And I called John Lair in Renfrew Valley and was going up there to try to make a change to see if I could do it. And then if I couldn't have made it there, I was going to quit, because I realized that it's awfully good to be able to play country music and stay on radio and be among the public. But where you play in a small station, like I was in Knoxville, and I lasted there approximately 5 years or a little more, that after I had played the territory out there, the station wasn't big enough at that time, or isn't today, I don't suppose, to pay any salaries to country musicians. They play their staff announcers, and that's about all. The country musician has got to get out and make it in personal appearances.
That's right.
Or have a big record and make some pretty quick money, but that can easily get away from him. So I realized that I couldn't afford to go from WNOX, and that's what little I'd made there and saved up to come down here, which was I put in the bank $400 when I came down here. That's very personal, but it's facts, since you're asking me for facts. And that had dwindled away to absolutely almost nothing, and I'd called John Lair to go up there. And if I couldn't get on that, and which I felt that I wasn't good enough to make the National Barn Dance, for Lula Bell and Scotty and them were playing at that time, and the Who's Your Hot Shots, and also our good friend Red Foley, but Red wasn't known too much well. I felt that if I couldn't do that, and if I had to mess around with the smaller station, that I couldn't afford to try it because I couldn't make a living out of it, and the best thing to do would be to get out of the business. So, about that time, business was so poor that Clell Summy, who of course is cousin Jody, and Red Jones decided they was going to have to leave. I wasn't paying them enough. And Jess Easterday decided to stay with me and just tough it out to the very end. So I sent back to Knoxville then, and I got Lonnie Wilson, who I created the PAP out of, and Pete Kirby, who I immediately made Oswald. But I only made him Oswald after I got Rachel. At that time, Rachel lived down in the country here in Williamson County, and Sam and Kurt McGee. I kept looking for some girl that could play a banjo. I felt that the banjo was necessary at that time. And Sam come to me one night and he says, I've got a girl down here in the country, but he says, now, she's green. He said, she's a country girl. And I said, can she play a banjo? He said, well, she's pretty good, but said she'd have to be trained a lot, really. I said, if she can pick it up, lay it down, and play one number, I'd like to listen to her. So he agreed, and he brought Rachel up along with her father for an audition right here at WSM, and David Stone and myself went in the control room here to listen to them, and Rachel and Sam played about 2 numbers. And we immediately went back, and David said to me, he said, Roy, you wouldn't want her, would you? I said, well, David, I think she's exactly what I'm looking for. He said, well, I'll leave it up to you. So we went back and took Rachel and her father into David's office and talked to him for quite a while, and Rachel never did speak. She wouldn't talk to nobody. She hadn't said Yakum up until then. We asked her if she had a pretty good repertoire of numbers, and she didn't know what that was, and so she passed that subject up, and so did her father, bless his heart.
Didn't dwell on that at all.
Didn't dwell on it at all, but I finally said, well, you do know 2 or 3 numbers I can get by on stage with, don't you? And she nodded her head. So we talked on like that for a while. And Rachel, she had red hair, and she had on a brown coat and brown stockings and brown shoes. She was a lily if there ever was one. I hope she's listening to me, bless her heart. I love her. That's the reason I'm not afraid to talk about her, because I love everything about her, because she was a true trooper. She was one of the greatest. I don't think there will come any greater than she, and, well, I've trooped with some others. Miss Kitty Wells is a wonderful trooper, and so is Miss Jerry Johnson and others that I have trooped with. But these girls, I speak truthfully of Rachel because she was a country girl, Eddie. She didn't know what a shower was. And she laughs about it till today, and we had to show her how to turn that shower on. She was used to the galvanized washing tub.
I don't guess she'd ever been away from home.
Never been, no. She'd never been except to Franklin.
Well, Franklin, which is
she
20 miles.
Well, she lived 10 miles out of Franklin over there. And she'd been to Franklin, and she come here, and first morning she got on the elevator by this Mr. White.
Percy?
Percy White, who was on controls. He got on the elevator with her, and it was a little chilly morning that morning when he was coming up for an early morning show. And just as he got on, well, he said to Rachel, he says, it's kind of chilly this morning, isn't it, Rachel? And when they got off at the 5th floor, she said, yes, it is.
She didn't say a word as you got that elevator quit running. Roy, this is real interesting here, and I'm really enjoying it. We're going to be back in just a minute to find out some more. We got to make a station break 15 minutes after 1 o'clock. And WSM, home of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. When we come back, we want to find out, Roy was speaking a minute ago about trying to get on at Renfro Valley, and of course, didn't think he could make the WLS Chicago Barn Dance because that was one of the first ones up there. And then, of course, then we can come around and say what we want to say, that Roy Acuff, as Porter and I talked last night, is the one who really started Grand Ole Opry nationwide. So we'll talk about that, because that time they had the big show in Chicago, and then it's kind of switched. We'll be back to it in a minute, but right now let's play one of these tunes. Is this Oswald Roy, the steel guitar chimes? Columbia recording, or do you remember?
I don't know.
You don't remember? We can tell, I think, whether it's Oswald or Clell, Jody. Let's listen to it right now. It's called Steel Guitar Chimes, Roy Acuff. Oh, this is the Crazy Tennesseans. This was still on the label. This is Clell.
They just switched labels. That was done back on the Vocalion or something like that.
And it's on the Vocalion, and Roy had proved himself worthy to buy half of the stock, so they put him on Columbia label then. Let's listen to it. Thank you very much. It's Roy Acuff, Crazy Tennesseans, Smoky Mountain Boys now. That was Clell, and was that Dynamite? Clell, Dynamite, and Red, and Jeff Easterday. How about that? Boy, that's really going way on back there. And Roy, let's get back to what we were saying a while ago where we said that we thought it was real fine because you felt like that you wasn't able to make a big show like the WLS Barn Dance, which back at that time was the #1 country show, I guess, wasn't it?
Yes, Eddie, it was. When I was a youngster and starting in this business, the National Barn Dance was rated higher in a vote. What did they have back then?
I don't know how they call it Hooper or Pulse rating, I guess now.
The Hooper was much bigger than Grand Ole Opry. I knew that I couldn't make the National Barn Dance, or I felt that I couldn't, but I was started out to go to Renfro, and just at that time, I came out with the number, the Precious Jewel. Now the Speckled Bird and the Cannonball I recorded 25 years ago on my very first recording session. But then I came out with the Precious Jewel and it seemed like they got to listen to me, and then immediately the Speckled Bird and the Cannonball started hitting, and the Speckled Bird was leading for a long, long time, and then the Wabash Cannonball took the lead, and then after it kind of died away, the Precious Jewel came right up.
Well, I didn't even know that myself.
Yeah, they were all, nobody listened to me sing the Speckled Bird when I first came here. I sung it on my very first show.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. And I more or less crooned it, Eddie. I was kind of, I was afraid to let my voice out as I do now. So I held my voice down, and more or less as a crooner, a country crooner, kind of like Marty Robbins.
What about some of the qualities that Robbins uses?
Some of them, boys. No, I think the world of Marty. They like to tease him. But I went into David Stone and told him that I was leaving, and he asked me to get this act out of Knoxville, which I got these others, and that was when I really turned loose to sing. And I decided I would do it the way I wanted to, and the way that I felt that I was more at home in doing it, more with myself around the microphone, or just quit it. And that was how that I started to blasting the microphone. And I guess if you look back in your listen to your records, you'll find out that I was one of the first in the country field of music that ever started to sing, and like more like a classical singer. My sister taught me that. She took voice, and she taught. I would watch her in her breathing, how they breathe, real deep, and bring the voice out from down in the chest rather than in the nasal tone, as they always try to claim that we do. there is no nasal tones about my
No.
singing at all when after I really started turning loose. So that is the reason I started to blast in the microphone in my way of singing of today.
Well, you know, Roy, that might be why, but I think, and I'm just saying this, that I think, and I guess everybody else does, that your words are so distinct, you can always understand them and everything. I think that played a real important part, and that possibly came from just what you were talking about, your sister.
Well,
What you heard.
there, like I said, I sang the Speckled Bird on the very first program that I did. I had to argue that out now with Clell and Red and them. They didn't want me to do it because I came here as a fiddler to try to fulfill Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith was gone away, and I came here as a fiddler. And actually, when I came down to Nashville the first time, I was on a 15-minute show. They turned it over to me, and they had their own announcer. I didn't do the talking. But it was just an audition. They gave me my audition on the air because I had connected. They had heard the record. And on our way down here, we were deciding what numbers to use. And I decided that I wanted to sing The Great Speckled Bird, and they were very much against it. They thought that I would do nothing but fiddle for the 15 minutes. But I felt that the Speckled Bird was going good back in Knoxville, and if the people in Knoxville loved it, the people in Nashville would love it too. So I did it, and I went on back home. We did our 15 minutes and went on back to Knoxville, not knowing whether we were going to be even called or asked or not. And the mail came in almost bushel baskets.
I can just imagine. There's no telling how many that first broadcast, you don't have any idea how many pieces of mail came in, do you?
No, I don't, Eddie. I held up in mail, and of course I still draw some mail, but we carried our mail away here in sacks.
I saw some records one day here back. This was about 15 years ago, I believe it was, where 1 week that you had over 300,000 pieces of mail.
Yeah,
they got the record.
Sometime they would test us on making some special announcement or offering something for sale. Just like maybe a store downtown here will run a bargain day. You've got to do those things. A giveaway day. And on radio, we would do that to find out kind of who was listening or how many we had listened. That's the way that in some way they get their ratings. But, back then mail was pulled in. I don't know whether just because people don't write today or whether they listen or whether we don't have quite the listen we do.
Well, I think we got them out there. They just they like to listen and don't write too much like you. You don't ever write in that feller sang, and I don't either. So they're out there. They prove that when you play these personal appearances. Roy, did you realize, of course we know that your ambition was to be a big man as you are now, but did you ever really realize that you would take the country by storm? Now, I can say this, you might not say it, but actually that is what happened. I mean, places you would take the show and you couldn't get within 4 or 5 miles of the place. How did you feel the first time when it really broke open, when there was thousands and thousands of people?
Eddie, truthfully, till this day, I don't realize it. I have never felt that I was any different from you or Johnny or Stony Cooper or anybody else. I have actually, in my heart, never realized it. I don't know how that people do those things. I have heard that people could be different, but if they are, they had something different from what I've ever had. I would have to say that different things touch different people in different ways. And popularity, if that's what you call it, has never disturbed me in any way. I have never worn dark glasses. I have never had a reason in the world to dodge the public. I have never had a reason in the world not to sign autographs all day long. But when I've always seen the crowds, but I wondered just what they came to see. Who was it? Was it Roy Acuff, or was it something Roy Acuff did to them, or what it was? I've never known what I did. I don't know today why that I drew crowds and why that they were so loyal to me. Sometimes I think that it's maybe been sincerity that they thought I was an honest, sincere person. And when I got broke into pictures, I felt that I was as weak as what I used to go, and when I'd see Gene Autry, I felt sorry for him. Honestly, I did.
Yeah.
And I think I'd go back just to see if he'd improved. and finally, I decided that he was doing all right, and I'd go back then to just see a boy that I knew that didn't have it when he started.
And just came on through
Just came on through.
Well, I think, Roy, that goes why that you are still the greatest name in country music world or entertainment world, any way to look at it, because there's not a place in this world of ours, I'll bet you, that the name of Roy Acuff doesn't strike up a chord. Maybe not with just everybody, but somewhere down the line, if you talk to, I bet you go to Switzerland or any part of the world you wanted to, and talk to 10 people, and if you could speak their language, they would know who Roy Acuff was and what he stood for.
Might be true if you would connect it with the Opry in some place. I think maybe my name would have to be connected with the Opry in some parts of the world to be recognized, and in some places maybe it wouldn't be, but I think it's the Opry. You can say Grand Ole Opry, and they know what it is, but sometimes they would like to know the individual, and then other times it doesn't matter, just so it's Grand Ole Opry.
Well, I think you said there the link with the Grand Ole Opry. I think to both of them. I mean, it's that they go together. In other words, they're like icing on a cake. I mean, you got your cake, and then you ice it up, and you got the Grand Ole Opry, and of course the icing is Roy Acuff.
One thing that always puzzled me when I came down to the Opry, I felt that if I could just get here, that sometimes I'd have $100 houses. You know, I'd never seen a $100 house when I came here. Honestly, I hadn't. Maybe once, but I don't recall it.
Been a long time.
Yeah, I had never seen it, but I had a vision that maybe I could play these high schools and get. I never thought of ever playing a big auditorium. It scared me dead if you told me I had to go to the capital of another city. I would have said, don't send me there because I'll be run off. But I wanted to play these little schoolhouses, which I did play them all around here. But I felt that if I could get down here, I could draw some $100 houses and get started.
Draw some $100 houses. That sounds good. Yeah, draw some $100 houses.
They wasn't. I thought if I'd put that Grand Ole Opry banner up, you know, that they would come. But they sent me over to North Carolina with the Grand Ole Opry banner, and I didn't draw them, Eddie. They didn't. They didn't come to see Grand Ole Opry because they didn't know Roy Acuff. and I began to realize that maybe that Grand Ole Opry at that time wasn't as big as I thought it was, but now today it's different.
It's a different story.
Oh yes, it's a nationally known institution.
Sure. Roy, this is getting so interesting, boy. The farther along, the better it gets to me, and I hope the neighbors enjoy it, and I think they are. We'll get back to some more music right now because the time is 1:30 from WSM, home of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. And tonight, as our guest on Opry Star Spotlight, the man who we think, in our opinion, is the very reason that I'm sitting here tonight playing records and that fellers are sitting all over the country playing records each day. Because if anybody was the forerunner of country music, and we feel like Roy Acuff is, making it as a profession, profession that you're respected in your community. Well, I can recollect the time, buddy, if you played a fiddle or a guitar or song, they didn't want you to even stop. I mean, with some of the people, you know it, so keep going on. So we think that Roy Acuff is the one that broken that barrier down. We're going to play some right now. Here's Grandpa Jones, another young chap. So, we're going to try to do something now. I didn't talk to them about this. I mentioned it a while ago when they come in. We didn't even know this up here, see? And they was outside waiting me and Roy to get through and said, I thought you was never going to stop talking. So I tell you what I'd like to do. One of you come over here and sit in this chair, and I want you fellers just to go ahead. I'll make a break, and we don't have to. No, we don't have to make another break for 30 minutes. I would like for you all, if you will, to sit down and discuss the business as you went through it, the different phases and everything. Just talk within yourselves. Will you do that? Ernest, come over here. Hank, Ernest Tubb, Hank Snow, and Roy Acuff. Now, how lucky can you be? You take my chair right there. The mic is on, and I want you fellas to discuss this business, just the phases of it and everything. Will you do that?
Since you've been discussing with me and causing me to do all the answering to the questions, I believe I'll take over the master of ceremonies on this job. I think it would be my place to do it since I am the elder of you two young gentlemen. How are you both?
Thank you for calling us young, Roy.
Well, you are young, not young in the business, but young in age. And it's real good to have the privilege for the very first time to sit with two gentlemen as you are.
Thank you so much,
How
Roy.
things are going?
And first, let me say that we heard you on the radio up here with Eddie, and we didn't come in up here to horn in on your and Eddie's chatting. In fact, I was getting a big kick out of listening to you sort of go back when you first started on the car radio.
You make your hair get gray.
Well, I got to thinking, I had to go to the dentist yesterday, and he was talking about the something before he lost his teeth.
Yeah,
and I've got one out, but don't tell Red Foley about it. Yeah, I knew him back, I've been there since 42, remember? He had all his teeth when I came here in 42.
I remember the first time I saw you was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee, it's the ballpark.
That's right. And you was singing "Walking the Floor Over You," and a sensation it was.
Well, thank you. And you know what I remember though about that, of course, other than getting to meet you and all your boys, and let's see, I believe was Homer and Jethro there from the barn dance. There's somebody there from Chicago on the show.
Most likely Little Bell and Scotty.
Probably it was. I won't
Yeah, I
be
worked
for
some
sure.
with them back then.
But the main thing that impressed me, of course, you mentioned a while ago that we're all trying to make a living in this profession, just like anyone else in their profession. But I was watching all the Smoky Mountain boys sell Roy Acuff songbooks, and they had a great big suitcase under the steps there, under the stands there, going into the little dugout there at the dressing room. And I saw those guys coming back and dropping all this money, and that suitcase was just running over, and I said, what are they doing to get all this money, see? And I was like Grandpa Jones said once time about leaving all the songbooks at home. I had a whole bunch of mine in Fort Worth, Texas, and I didn't bring a one with me, see. Of course, they probably wouldn't have bought them anyhow, but it did give me ideas about songbooks.
Ernest, the boys knocked down more back in those days and made more of them than they did now legitimately.
Legitimately.
Let's let our good friend Hank Doak over here, the good old Canadian boy, and the boy, he has been one wonderful person to come from kind of a foreign country into our states here and make the friends that he has. I have all the admiration in the world for him. Hank,
Thank you.
how you doing?
Just fine, thank you, Roy, and I certainly appreciate those nice words. Incidentally, this is the first time that you and I and Ernest have sat to the same microphone.
It's the only time that I have any time at all. One of you sit down personally to a microphone without some master ceremony sitting around and asking a lot of questions.
Have to read a commercial or something.
Yeah.
We just sort of pulled a fast one on that, didn't we?
Oh, what are you all doing, sure enough?
Well, we was out. Hank came by the house to discuss a little business and about our Jimmy Rogers Memorial Day that's coming up.
Oh, by the way, what day is that? Ernest? I'm not in the best of memory.
Well, we had to change our date. It's always been on May the 26th, but since this year that falls on a Sunday and we can't get the stadium either, we have changed it till the 21st and 22nd.
What day of the week?
That'll be Tuesday and Wednesday.
You won't count on me this year. I've missed you 1 or 2 years, but I've had definite reasons for that. But I intend to be with you, and I just want to come down as millions of people want to come. There's lots, of course, that want to come that can't, but I'm going to be one of them that want to come and can this year.
Good. Well, we're proud to hear that.
Well, I'll be there.
In fact, that's one of the things we wanted to ask you too when we came up here. And well, I felt so sure of it. I gave a little story to Charlie Lamb, the country music reporter, and I said, by the way, I said, add Roy Acuff to that list too, would you? I said, I think for sure that he'll come. I haven't asked him, but I said if he can't, he won't get mad if I include his name anyhow.
No, there's only about 2 days that can keep me away. I've got just very few dates booked, and I hope that it's not that. If it is, we'll make some arrangements. Anyway, Sunday, of course, I have my own show up at Dunbar Cave, which it's kind of hard to get away from. And then on Saturdays, they won't let me sometimes get away from here, as they won't let you boys. So you know my problems there. But I will be with you if it's possible.
So that's why we thought it would be best for everybody concerned, Roy, if we had it during the middle of the week. And then, because, you know, most of us are working, especially on the weekends.
I think maybe your friends and Jimmy's friends will enjoy getting away. I mean, through the week, other than maybe on trying to travel over a Sunday weekend.
Yeah, that's right. And the traffic is usually quite rough.
Say, Hank, there's part of Canada I've never traveled in, and I know that you have traveled it from one province to the other. And as I've traveled the states, I know you're familiar with all the provinces in Canada. Over in Quebec and Nova Scotia, and you are a Nova Scotia boy.
That's right.
Is that a territory in there? Is that something similar to Toronto and on out this way, or does it run? Is the country look similar to ours? Now, when you're on the West Coast, you know your territory out there in the States, and then you come back through here, and then you come through your deserts, and then you go into this, and then you enter into the highlands. What is kind of country is that over there? I want to know. I've never been over there.
In Nova Scotia, you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, Roy, it's funny, and I might say a coincidence, but Nova Scotia and Tennessee are just about the same as far as the hills and the valleys and the streams and so forth. Although a lot of Nova Scotia is seacoast. I mean, it's on part of it's on the Atlantic Ocean. But the most of it is about the same as here in Tennessee.
Hank, are you the first boy in that part of the country to start country music? Was there ever any other up there? I remember I got to hearing of Hank Snow. It got to Hank Snow drifting down this way. Did you? Was there someone previous to you up in there?
Oh yes, and a great name, Roy, and still is. It started, I think, probably 3 or 4 or 5 years before I did on the Victor label, and that was in the United States. He crossed the border and came into the United States too. He's known over here as Montana Slim, but
yes, I know him.
In Canada, Wolf Carter, and I might add that he is just as popular up there now as he ever was.
And he's a Canadian boy?
Oh, yes, he's
well, I didn't know that.
In Canada, that's right.
Yeah, he's... didn't he travel over into Australia? Did he make a trip over there?
Yes, he certainly did, Roy.
And did real well.
And did real well.
Now, why is it that we can go into Canada and really do better financially than seems like than here in the States? And you come down here to do well, and we go up there. I wonder what the reason is. There's something wrong here, Ernest.
Well, it's a funny thing, you know. I was just thinking about that. Now, after Hank came to the States, of course, he didn't do too well while he was in Canada financially. He did all right, but nothing compared to what he can do after coming here and then going back, you know. Because he's much bigger. After he was over here a year, he was much bigger in Canada than he had ever been all the years he spent in Canada.
Did you carry a network show while you was in Canada? A BC?
Yes,
Did you?
NB, CBC.
CBC, yeah, that's right, Canadian Broadcast.
But the funny part of it is, of course, in Canada, a record that would sell 10,000 records would be a big seller in Canada.
Is that right?
Oh, that would probably make all the charts.
Hear what Eddie said. Eddie said that would be a big one for him. Well, that goes for me, too.
The Canadian people...
It wouldn't be bad for me, either. Boy, these sales are dropping off.
No, the Canadian people, bless their hearts, were very wonderful to me, Roy. They stuck right behind me, and they still do. And... as a matter of fact, they were very proud and pleased when they learned that I had entered the United States.
Your name is much big up there, my boy. I grew up and you have a world of friends. I've never visited your hometown or city or your province, but other than down through Toronto and Alberta and BC and all in there, you are a much big boy.
Well, thank
you. And I was proud to know that we had you down here. Ernest, you were speaking of the way records have fell off, and that has no reference to mine because I'm not a record seller. But tell me the truth. You're in the record business. What actually is wrong with our country records?
Well, Roy, actually there isn't anything wrong. I tell you what's happened. There's more country records being sold today than ever before. But 10 years ago, perhaps we had 10 or 12 or 15 artists selling all those country records. Today, we have just dozens of people. No one artist is selling the records like you and I sold back during the war, and Bob Wills and several of the others, Bill Monroe. There's still more country records sold as a whole, but it's divided up among a lot of artists now.
Of course, then today there's, I think the last report was there's 1,500 different labels in the United States right now.
Yeah, I know. I don't know anything about them all. I just try to remember the family names of people. I can't remember their given name at all. In other words, there are now 2 Tubbs, and I just try to remember the name Tubb. I can't remember Ernest and Justin both. I
Well,
just remember that, and there now are two Snows, and I can only remember it hurts. Every time I push a name in, it's like a song. I push one out or something. I'm getting old.
Well, what happens, Roy, I think a lot of the public, too, is getting confused out there. The way my sales have dropped off, I think a lot of them are buying Justin Tubb records instead of my records. Which, that is still all right as long as it's in the family, you know. As long as it's a Tubb, I won't complain, but...
I'm glad that you all have got any shoes. I haven't got any.
I just hate to see y'all... I don't mind your memory getting a little bit bad, but I'm worried about the public.
Well, we are having fun here, and I hope that the folks out there are enjoying it. Let's get Eddie back over here and let him play another record. And
I think we should.
Well, don't run off now, because nobody else, and I don't mean but nobody, could ever have $3 million sitting around the microphone here doing this show. Now, you talk about somebody feeling big. I won't speak to nobody for a week.
Neither can you, Eddie. At least you haven't yet.
3. Roy Acuff, Hank Snow, and Ernest Tubb right around the microphone here, all 3 at one time. Has this ever happened before?
No.
No, not to my knowledge.
I'm so glad I'm on this week. I am glad I'm on this week.
Well, Eddie, it's a real pleasure for all of us, I'm sure. And however, we didn't plan this.
Well, I'm glad this happened, honestly.
We came up to borrow some money from Roy.
Yeah.
We'd hate to embarrass him by asking him in here, and we never could get his eyes through the door.
No, but I did say there back there, I said, now this is not right, you know, for us to be running on the road. Didn't I?
Oh,
That's
listen,
right.
Honestly, this was, I hope it happens again, but it probably never will. I mean, 3 of you gentlemen up here, and what I liked about is the way you were talking about the business there, because of any 3 people that knows the business, it's these 3 fellows right here, if there is such a thing as knowing the business. I mean, they really know what, and I was glad to hear that explanation Ernest gave a while ago, which I'd never thought of, about why records, one person didn't sell as many as they used to, because there's so many of them. That's wonderful. That's a good explanation.
That is the reason. Well, I'm sure Roy just probably hadn't thought of it that way, because Roy doesn't keep up with records as much as he did, you know.
I'm just not in the record business, I guess, Eddie.
No, you're in the, but you're not as I don't know how to define the right words, Roy, but what I'm trying to say is
I am not active. You're exactly right. You can say it exactly. I'm not active in the record
concerned, and you're not as concerned, or you don't keep up as closely with it as some of the rest.
I was just thinking, though, that possibly the reason that I hear so much about it, and maybe others, as you made mention, there are so many of us now that there are much more complaining than there was back then. Maybe back a few years back, there was only me and you, and very few others complaining, so there wasn't so much complaint heard. But now then, the whole bunch is complaining because they can't sell records, so there's more complaints.
You know, everybody's making records, and not all of them selling them, you know.
That's right.
Well, excuse me.
Go ahead.
But you know, I think that John Wolf has got the right idea now, though. He suggests that we bring out a label and that the label should be made of grits. And I said, well, why made of grits? Well, he said, then if the folks don't like them, they could eat them, see? Don't you think he's got something there?
He possibly has.
That's like I'm going to start recording on the Scotch tape label. Columbia's getting tired of being stuck with my records, so I'm going to put them on the Scotch tape from now on. Let me make a station break here and tell them it's 10 minutes before the hour of 2 o'clock. And this is Opry Star Spotlight, and you talk about spotlight. This is a floodlight up here tonight, boy. 3 of the biggest names, the most important names in country music today, is right here in front of the microphone. And I am just tickled to death that I've had these fellows in here working. I feel real good that I've had all 3 of them in here, boy.
I think Roy's a good MC, Eddie. I sure do.
Let's play one of his old recordings. This one all you fellas can remember. The Precious Jewel, huh?
Incidentally, that's one of my very special favorites. That one and Lonely Mountain to Clay. And of course,
Ernest has asked me for that Lonely Mountain Clay many times, I believe it.
now, you know I'm not just saying
I know
that,
you're
don't
not
you, Roy?
kidding. No, sir,
Right.
I know you like it.
Let's play it, and then will you all talk just a little bit more? Because we're getting this tape, fellas, because it'll never happen again in history. And I know you all would like to have a copy of it, buddy. I know I wouldn't take nothing for it. So let's play Precious Jewel right now. Roy Acuff, the Smoky Mountain Boys. Thank you very much, Mr. Roy Acuff. Yes, sir, and the Smoky Mountain Boys right there. One of the old recordings, The Precious Jewel. Tonight, we're spotlighting Roy Acuff, and boy, I want you to know, this will never happen in history again, although I hope it will, but we're getting this tape just in case, because this is one for the prize collection, buddy. This is really it. Hank Snow, Ernest Tubb, and Roy Acuff right around the microphone. Roy is on the telephone right now, and the hour is 5 minutes before 2 o'clock from WSM, home of the Grand Ole Opry. And we'd like to tell you that Ernest Tubb, Johnny and Jack, Kitty Wells, and Wilburn Brothers will be in Atlanta, Georgia, Sunday, April the 7th. They'll be in Louisville, Kentucky on Friday the 12th. Evansville, Indiana on the 14th of Sunday. Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs in War, West Virginia the 5th. Charleston, Tennessee the 8th. Monticello, Kentucky on the 10th. Johnny Cash in Odessa, Texas. Incidentally, Johnny and Glenn Douglas and all of them are listening. They're on the way down to Odessa right now. They called earlier. Ernest?
Oh, good, and I'll say hi to all of them, huh?
Yes, sir, buddy. And they're going to be in Dallas on Saturday, Abilene on Sunday the 7th, Odie and Jody in Greenville, Mississippi the 5th, Shreveport, Louisiana the 6th, Mineral Wells, Texas the 7th, Hereford, Texas the 8th, Wichita Falls, Texas the 9th, Albuquerque, New Mexico on Friday the 12th, Saturday the 13th in Amarillo, Texas. Hawkshaw Hawkins will be in Manchester, Tennessee on the 5th, Cowboy Copus in Knoxville the 6th, Lonzo and Oscar Statesville, North Carolina the 5th, Reedsville the 6th, Hillsville, Virginia the 7th, Union, South Carolina the 8th, 9th and 10th in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, and Thursday the 11th, North Wilkesboro, and the 12th, Greer, South Carolina, Saturday the 13th in Seneca, South Carolina. George Jones, Justin Tubb, and Benny Martin will be in Scottsboro, Alabama on Friday the 5th. Jimmy Newman, Bill Monroe, and a bass singer in the bunch in Picayune, Mississippi, Friday, April the 5th. Poplarville, Mississippi the 6th. Pascagoula, Mississippi the 8th. Gulfport on the 9th and 10th. Columbia on Thursday the 11th, Mississippi. McCall, Mississippi. Friday the 12th. Gloucester, Mississippi on the 13th. Furlan Husky and Farron Young are in Spartanburg, South Carolina with Miss Hubert Long, Friday, April the 5th. Cowboy Copus and Hank Snow will be in Springfield, Illinois on Sunday, April the 7th. Sarnia, Ontario the 8th. London on the 9th. Peterborough, Ontario the 10th. Cowboy Copus, Hank Snow, and Mother Maybelle in Toronto Thursday through Saturday, April 11th, 12th, and 13th. Hank Snow and Mother Maybelle and Johnny Cash in Syracuse, New York on Sunday the 14th. Then Hank and Mother Maybelle in Toronto, April 15th through the 17th. Then Hank will be in Syracuse on Thursday the 18th. Lugan Brothers, Bill Carlisle and Porter Wagner in Jackson, Tennessee, Thursday the 11th. Little Rock, Arkansas, the 12th. Ray Price, Jimmy Dickens, Hawkshaw Hawkins, Gene Shepard, and Minnie Pearl in Little Rock, Arkansas, the 16th. Houston, Texas, 17th through the 19th. And that gives you a lineup on our Grand Ole Opry talent. And neighbor, remember this, for the finest shows, you look on that advertising, it says WSM Grand Ole Opry. That's the stamp of approval. 100% of the finest, cleanest, wholesome fun and entertainment that you've ever witnessed and enjoyed. So bring the family and enjoy yourself very much. And now, our panel, we'd like to get back around here. Ernest, come back over and sit down in the easy chair, buddy. You're getting it easy, but you got the easy chair.
You respect old age, don't you, son?
And Hank Snow and Roy Acuff. Fellas, we don't want to keep things up too late, but Go ahead and talk a little bit more. I'm enjoying it.
I was wondering, Eddie, when you was making all those announcements as to who's who and where, if there's any space left where I could get in, slide in sideways.
One time.
The only place that I can find that I would actually be safe by not being run over by one of us hillbillies, as they want to call it, is to be out on Old Hickory Lake, and I think I'll remain there.
Roy,
Remote broadcast.
Remote,
I did notice that nobody was playing Bald Knob, Arkansas.
The Leuven brothers, I think, are down there.
Well, maybe they were.
They wrote the number. They better be upholding Bald Knob.
Incidentally, Roy, you and Ernest was talking a little bit ago about when you'd first seen Ernest, I believe, and vice versa. Do you remember the first time that you and I got acquainted?
No, I don't. I don't believe I am.
Do you remember, I think they called it the Old Painted Post out on Ventura Boulevard in Hollywood?
Yeah.
You was out, I believe it was 1948.
Oh, the old gentleman with the whiskers on the door?
Yeah, incidentally, sorry, so he's dead now. Tex Cooper used to take the tickets at the door, the big, long...
What's the movie? Hoot Gibson?
No, Hoot didn't have it then. Some other fella had it. I'll tell you what band was playing there. Lloyd Perryman's brother. What was his name? But anyway, Lloyd Perryman's brother was playing.
I know where the place is, and I've been there several times. Different times when I go out there. I usually visited the Painted Post, and
well, I have a picture out the house that's taken that night of the whole gang. I must look it up and then we'll check and see who all was there.
Pleased to see it. I like to see any of my pictures when I was much younger.
Well, I'll tell you, it was an extreme pleasure for me that night because we had listened to you so many times in Houston, Canada, when he was on the Prince Albert show. And as a matter of fact, that was one of the big things that happened in my life outside of meeting Mr. Tubb over here was yourself. Although I had met you before I did, Ernest. Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering whether you did recall that or not.
Well, I know the story about you and Ernest just in a little way. I know that both of you were great admirers of Jimmy Rogers. You admired him enough to when your first son was born, or possibly your only son.
That's right.
He was called Jimmy Rogers Snow.
You got a good memory.
And I know that Ernest played a great part in what we call sometimes running for you to introduce you to the personnel here at WSM.
Right.
And I think he had a good eye for talent. I think he brought in a wonderful person. And I'm glad to know that you've done well, and I want to see you continue so and continue for always good country music, keeping it on a high pedestal and never letting it down. I think the trouble today with some of us is that we possibly forget that there are others to follow us, and that we are not, we only look to our own selves and think of what little good we've got out of it, and forgetting the other fellow's got to make it himself. And if we don't do a good job, and if we leave the ground, if we take all of the riches away from the ground, then they can't grow any vegetables to live upon themselves. So we must always think to keep the ground good and fertile, keep it where corn and stuff will still want to grow, and where boys can come in and girls can still make a living out of country music here at Grand Ole Opry.
That certainly is the
That is strictly my opinion, Roy, and I think we should all try to leave things, if we possibly can, in a little better shape than we found them. That will make it better.
I think definitely, Ernest. My honest opinion of, may I not say just Grand Ole Opry. Grand Ole Opry is referred to as country music, and when you refer to country music or hillbilly or folk music, or however you want to term it, people think immediately of Grand Ole Opry. I think the slur that come out of Chicago here a while back, where about these Southerners going up there and us hillbillies that was crowding into Chicago and running it reflected more on Nashville and Grand Ole Opry than any other part of the South, because the people thought immediately of Grand Ole Opry, and it hurt me very badly to see it. But I think that we're going to have to, in some way, here at WSM, and if Grand Ole Opry ever goes down, country music will fall flat on its face all over the whole nation. So we here at Grand Ole Opry have got to bind ourselves together and pull together and work in every way to keep country music right on the top shelf where it is.
That's right. We certainly have, and that is certainly my aim. And speaking of the philosophy that you brought up a while ago about the ground and so forth, I feel this way that, of course, we apply it to country music and Grand Ole Opry because this has more or less been our life, and I think that applies to anything that we do in life. And the country music, of course, is the main part of all of our lives, or else we wouldn't have been in it this long. And I think that that's for anyone in whatever profession or job may be doing.
I think that there are others besides the Grand Ole Opry fellows that are trying to do well and keep country music up. I think that the Ozark Jubilee is doing a wonderful job.
I do too.
I truly think that Red Foley has nothing in his heart but good for country music. I feel that in West Virginia, there's only a couple of years, and it worked out. He was there about, you've been there 10 years, and you don't stay the first 10 years unless you are pleasing the people and the people like you, because it becomes to where you can't live, and they become to despise you if you're not doing good. I would say despise you, but they won't receive you. Make it that way. So I think that the people there are trying to help country music. In Virginia, they have a program over there that's exceptionally well. I also think that our good friend Nelson King sometimes does it, but sometimes Nelson gets on the other foot.
I'm afraid that I will agree with that.
I know. I listen to him. I listen to him all the time. I know Nelson, and Nelson knows me. He's one of the best friends I've got. But when you really say that you stick to country music, then you stick to country music. I don't object to any of the rock and roll, but rock and roll and rhythm and blues stays on its side of the fence. I stay on mine. I can't sing it. I have nothing against the people that do. I think a lot of Elvis Presley.
I do too.
Personally, as a good young man, I think he's been hit in the back several times. But I think that Elvis has done well. But I don't think that you shouldn't mix rock and roll with country music, because I think it actually hurt us.
I don't know whether it hurt a whole lot, Roy. I think it's just probably a passing thing that will be accepted for a while. But then I think country music will be here when rhythm and blues and rock and roll and that type of calypsos.
Yeah, well,
when they're all gone. I mean,
I'll agree that you're right on that to a certain extent. I'll agree to that.
Let me say this. I believe that in 10 years from now there'll be more people that will remember the great speckled birds than there will at that great hotel or the Hound Dog.
Most likely, in a way. So. I won't feel that way anyhow.
I think our kind of music will live on and on. And that's why I'm proud to be a part of country music, because I'm always looking my pathway real.
Well, country music is American music. I mean, it's all of America.
It's true American music. It's going back to way back before even Home on the Range or Little Joe Durango.
Well, I'm definitely sure that they were singing she'll be coming around the mountain when she comes, and on top of old Smoky. And of course, they didn't know anything about Smoky, but possibly some other mountain over there that belonged to the church. I think that was the type of music that they were playing, and it is encouraging. We take it to all of that time.
No, I just wanted to come in there and say Donald Hahn called over and said, boy, he was taping this. They don't tell how many people are taping this tonight, you know it? So we're so glad that you fellas did. Now, we've got 2 records on the turntable here, and we played one of Roy's, and then we're going to be playing some more. We got one of Hank, and we got one of Ernest. Now, since we're all here, why, which one wants to introduce which now?
I'd like to introduce Hank Snow's number. What's it going to be, Hank?
What's it on there, Edward?
I've got The Marriage and Divorce, a beautiful heart song.
You going to introduce?
That's so beautiful. Yes, sir. Mr. Ernest Tubb. We'd like to be thankful for all of our many wonderful sick and shut-in friends who say they can't sleep at night, and sometimes they get a little giggle out of me, some of the things I say, and enjoy the records, and I hope you enjoyed that one. A beautiful song, and by a great gentleman, Mr. Ernest Tubb. 21 minutes after 2.
Eddie, I want to say a real grateful thanks to the kind words that Roy had to say, introducing the number. And of course, I think he knows how I feel towards him. I think, well, as I've always said, Mr. Grand Ole Opry himself. And never a finer gentleman and a fellow that will certainly stick by his beliefs. And I think he will always be the same way. I'm proud to say that I have been associated with Grand Ole Opry and with Roy for these past 14 years. But I was kidding over there a while ago about busting Roy's spotlight. He was being spotlighted. And I think you know that, Hank, and I didn't mean to butt in. May I say good night to you and tell you that many nights I don't sleep and I lay and listen to you when you're on and see Tommy when he's up here. And both of you do a very wonderful job. Having the shows and playing our records along with all the other records that we play. I enjoy the program very much. I'm going to quit talking and let Hank say good night, and I'm going to make him go home, and I'm going home. And then we'll let Roy then wind up in his own spotlight. Okay? Hank, come over here.
Thank you very much, Hank. Might as well stay over. He's on tonight, you know.
Well, I just have a few words to say. It was an extreme pleasure, believe me, Edward, to share the WSM microphone with such wonderful gentlemen as yourself, our good friend Ernest, and our good friend Roy Acuff. And as Ernest told you, we didn't mean to butt in here and take the spotlight. We just come down to see our little business. But we want to thank Roy very kindly and you for giving us the time. And as I said before, to have had the pleasure of sharing the same microphone with three of the greatest guys in the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hank Snow. Roy boy. Come here, Ake.
That's the way Uncle Dave Macon always called me, Roy
boy, that's true.
I want to just say this, Eddie. It's wonderful to be in a position that for you and others, and to Tommy and others, would even think of me as being in the spotlight. And as for Ernest and Hank, they have made my spotlight shine much better. In fact, I would say it is 3 times stronger. And I hope that if I'm ever spotlighted again on any show, that they will come up and be on it, because I've had a lot of fun. It's my first time to ever have the chance of talking with them around the microphone, and I think it was something completely different, and it was not planned, and I hope that you folks out there have enjoyed listening to all 3 of us little shots up here trying to make it interesting for you people. So come to the Grand Ole Opry and visit with us whenever you can, and then you can see all the Opry stars, both young and old. Us gray-headed will try to be there. Thank you, and good night, and God bless you all.
Thank you very, very much. Roy, Hank, Ernest, would you all come over, because I'm getting this tape, and say, much obliged, Eddie, so they won't think that I can take this and play it to the kids. When they get older, and they'll know that this is all here.
Well, it's much obliged, Eddie.
Much obliged, Eddie, and I mean that from my heart, too.
Thank you very, very much. Hank, come here and say much obliged, Eddie. I'm getting to take my own play. People will never believe this. I had all 3 of them here at once, and I just wanted to say much obliged again to it.
Much obliged, Edward.
See you in a while.
You see you after a while.
I'll see you in about, 10, 12, 15 hours?
About 15 hours.
And I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
very, very much.
Thank
Good night to you. 3 of the greatest names. And Johnny Wright, thanks to you too, buddy. Tony, much obliged. Johnny Johnson. Thanks to all of you good folks. Boy, you thanks the brush ape ain't had it this morning on Opry Star Spotlight from WSM in Nashville, Tennessee.